Welcome back to the Animal Highlight, everyone. This is season 4, where we're focused on animals and waste. My co-host this season is Herre de Bondt, who has done research on rats in Amsterdam, crows in Tokyo, and gulls in The Hague. His work has now brought him to London, where his PhD project is concerned with urban bird feeding practices. He's particularly interested in the ways in which non-human animals inform and shape the contemporary city in collaboration with and in defiance of humans. In this, the last of Herre's look at specific animals, we're talking about wild boars. Hello, welcome back to the Animal Highlight with Herre de Bondt.
Hello, thank you for having me.
All right, who are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about, well, I don't know, let me start with a question actually. If I were to say the word mutant, what would you think of?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Is that how the song goes?
Yeah,
it is, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I mixing up Batman and Teenage Mutant? No, yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course.
That's
of course.
them, yeah, exactly. We're not even talking about turtles today. You might think I was going to go there, but no.
Yeah.
We are actually, and we're also not talking about, we are talking about mutants in a way. I mean, when you say mutant, I also think about like green fluorescent goo where monsters emerge out of, or...
I also think of X-Men.
X-Men, yes, they are mutants. Godzilla is a mutant as well. There's a bunch of mutants in pop culture.
Very much so.
You know, they all have something in common, namely that they have mutated. And so today I want to go to Japan actually to talk about mutants there. And this is not Godzilla, who is Japanese and is a mutant, but I want to talk about wild boars today.
Is Godzilla a mutant or like a monster? Did Godzilla mutate?
So I think the story is that he was a prehistoric monster slumbering in the seas that got hit by a nuclear bomb test or something.
Then is he... Oh, okay. And then he mutated into the giant...
Exactly.
Oh, spoilers. Sorry, guys. No, everyone knows who Godzilla is. Okay. Sorry. I'm with you.
Yeah. But today we're talking about wild boars, who are actually, and I only recently learned this, they are one of the most widespread mammals in the world, as the wild boar and the 16 subspecies of wild boar have done a complete world tour because they're present in all continents except for Antarctica. Groups of wild boars are called a sounder and are usually led by a dominant female, which was interesting. And, compared to the pink domestic pig that we all know, boars have longer legs, darker hair, thicker fur, and are also just more muscular. A male boar can weigh up to 50 kilograms and can have tusks that can grow up to 10 centimeters in length.
Wow.
And you might not see it, but even female boars apparently have tusks. They just don't grow out of their mouths.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like male tusks do. And they can even charge they're fast and dangerous as well. They can charge at speeds of up to 40 kilometers an hour.
What?
And which I think they actually are dangerous to humans because they can charge at you and they won't stop until you're on the floor. Apparently, it sounds horrendous.
I mean, let's also, it all depends on the boar we're talking about right here. There's a range of boar sizes. You've got everything from smaller, not to say that a small animal can't be dangerous for whatever reason, but yeah, I don't know. Then you painted this monster picture. I think there's these massive boars that can move. Like you said, they're really large boars that can move quickly. And I'm always surprised by these large animals that move quickly. I think hippopotamuses as well
are
they're massive,
fast.
But they're super fast, which is always surprising.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the muscle that they need to move that fast?
Right, yeah.
And also, I mean, and this makes sense because wild boars need to eat over 4,000 kilocalories a day. Even though they're lighter than the average adult, they need to eat almost twice as much. I mean, logically, then they are omnivores because they need to find their food from anywhere. They mostly use their snouts, though, to rummage through the soil, to hunt for roots, bulbs, seeds, twigs, sometimes even small animals or insects. And it is exactly that digging behavior that they do with their snouts that made scientists actually pay attention to them in the wake of the 2011 triple disaster in Japan.
Just to bring you up to date with the breaking news that we've had this morning, that in the last hour, a very powerful earthquake has struck central Japan, prompting a major tsunami warning.
You might remember this.
Of course, yeah, of course I remember this.
Yeah. On the 11th of March in 2011, Japan was struck by one of the largest earthquakes in the nation's history. The earthquake happened just off the coast of Sendai, which is the northern part, so it happened on the northeastern coast. And it was followed by a tsunami that crashed into the mainland, damaged and damaged so many buildings, but also the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Mm. And the tsunami hitting the power plant resulted in massive amounts of radioactive material just seeping into the environment. And so in this season of the Animal Highlights, I've discussed many different kinds of waste, including everything from cigarette butts to food, plastic, and even human hair. But I think no waste really creates so much fear and anxiety as nuclear waste does. And there's a good reason for this. I mean, large amounts of radiation can be deadly to humans, causing devastating illnesses and even death. And so after this disaster in Japan, 160,000 people were evacuated from the area surrounding Fukushima, leaving behind what many refer to as ghost towns that are characterized by empty roads, debris, broken buildings. But if one looks closer, it is kind of plain to see that these are not ghost towns at all. Like other areas that are cordoned off from human activity, take, for example, the demilitarized zone in South Korea, which is a big area.
I've actually been there to the DMZ. I haven't gone in, but yeah, it's a fascinating place, the demilitarized zone. There's a lot of propaganda, I think, on both sides. And I remember learning about this. I remember learning about how that area is really like an ecological magic place because there's very little in the way of human activity there. So the animals have been left largely alone.
Do they ever, because I know that this demilitarized zone also has landmines and stuff, don't they get in trouble there? Or was there, because it is demilitarized, but at the same time it is a lot of tension there, isn't there?
I mean, I would have to, this was many years ago that I was there, but there's a lot of like covert operations where people do sneak in and leave and do that kind of stuff. But it's a massive, like it's literally the whole border between North and South Korea, because technically they're one country that are still at war. But the whole line, the parallel there has been set aside, and there's no way humans are covering that whole expanse.
Yeah, of course.
So animals just have had a space to move and to flourish in ways that they haven't in many other areas of Asia.
Exactly, yeah. And it happens there, but also in areas like Chernobyl, for example, after the nuclear disaster there. There's just...
Yeah, exactly.
Used to be a human space, but it's just now buzzing with other than human activity instead. And so too, Fukushima actually, some scientists went into it, and they, Philippe Lyons is his name, and his colleagues, they used remote cameras and they took some pictures, I'm saying some, but it's thousands of images of animals at 106 different sites around Fukushima. Wow. And around the evacuation zone specifically. And they found that following the human abandonment of the area, many species of animals, including boars, have returned and are rewilding in the area. But that makes you wonder, right? What about the radioactive waste? Is that not impacting the boars? Because humans left it for a reason, and the boars and other animals are just living there now. Kelly Cunningham and her colleagues wondered this as well. So in 2021, they published a study in which they look at how radioactive waste in the Fukushima area was actually affecting wild boars and rat snakes specifically. These are both species that live very close, in very close proximity to the soil. Snakes just spend their entire lives on the ground, and boars rummage through the soil. And the radioactive water is known to have seeped into the ground. So by that logic, the soil in that area must be particularly radioactive.
Okay, so they were looking at pigs and snakes. Well, these pigs and these snakes in particular, because the soil was particularly toxic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what they found was that radioactive material can be devastating for humans, but the boars and snakes didn't really seem to suffer from anything significant. No significant adverse health effects. No.
Oh, interesting.
No extra heads. No extra legs or something.
No Godzillas, huh?
Exactly.
No boar Godzillas, okay.
Not that we know of yet, no.
I see a comic book in our future where a boar and Godzilla meet and something happens.
Yes, powered by the animal turn.
There will be helicopters and... No, I'm thinking about the next Hollywood blockbuster. Anyway, I'm sorry. I think it's like late in the day for me and I'm losing my mind. Okay, so the scientists go in, they find out that boars and snakes are not impacted by this toxic soil.
Yes, and they are not impacted. But at the same time, if you were to shoot one of these boars and were to eat them, you might as well be eating pure radioactive cesium, because apparently they have a lot of material stored in their bodies. And the same is true in Europe, where traces of this cesium has been from the Chernobyl nuclear disaster has been found in animal bodies a lot. But despite that, crazy as it sounds, one could actually still argue that what was a triple disaster for humans in Japan has been mostly positive for the boars. They experience more freedom to roam than they've ever done. I mean, without humans around, foraging is easier than ever. And the evacuation of humans open up areas to the boars that they might previously have avoided. Without humans and cars moving around, they can just move around so much more freely. But while I say freely, I mean, slowly humans are returning to the towns they left behind 13 years ago, and they are trying to settle back in. And these people that come back, they do express concerns about the wild boars, because not only are they afraid of their tusks and their unpredictable demeanor sometimes, but they're also just massive radioactive mammals by now. They carry around so much radioactive waste that just creates anxiety. And so hunters have recently started hunting boars and are killing over 1,000 per year. But that just brings with it another issue, because they can't eat them. So how on earth do you dispose of thousands of inedible 50-kilogram mammals? And they're really struggling with this, because they try to bury them, but the graves just end up filling up really fast. And their incinerators can't keep up with the amount of boars that the hunters are shooting.
It's awful. I don't know, like, is there an option to just leave them be? Like, so you're seeing here a direct correlation between, as people move back in, the pigs are losing ground, or I mean, to go back to your previous highlight, like, they've been in place, they've been welcomed, they've been left alone, but now they're increasingly becoming trespassers again.
They are, and that's what surprised me as well. I feel like there should be a third option, because the boars shied away from these towns, so just give them time to slowly shy away from human settlements again if you want to live there again, instead of having to kill them. It sounds quite cruel, I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, not quite. Like, it's definitely, again, 1,000 pigs. Anyway, I've got fairly strong views. I just think we go too quickly to killing, and then you add in here the nuclear waste, which just complicates everything. And I know boars are a particularly vilified species, not only in Japan, but across Europe. There's a lot of campaigning happening right now to kind of get rid of boars in numerous places, because they tend to do fairly well. They do well next to human settlements too. So like you say, maybe there is another option. But I think because folks are so afraid of nuclear radiation, this really complicates what's already a really complicated situation.
Yeah, it's doubly scary as well. The triple disaster rapidly spread radioactive waste all throughout the Fukushima area, and different species have had to adapt in different ways. Where humans needed to leave, boars could stay. And it is striking how quickly the boars reclaimed the area. And this is not a phenomenon unique to Fukushima. We talked about it earlier, but boars have also proliferated around Chernobyl. And the legacy of the waste from that disaster lives on in the geography of the area and in the bodies of the boars as well. Both Chernobyl and Fukushima have even seen the return of endangered animals in those areas, just because they can live in relative peace. And so I think what this story tells us is that, and especially keeping the killing in mind that we were just talking about, while radioactive waste most likely isn't good for animals, but human habitation might just be worse.
Yeah, like we've said, it's definitely complicated. And I think based on these species you've mentioned here, maybe not all species would have that same kind of answer, but based on the species you're discussing, certainly it seems like human habitation, or at least humans or some human habitation is is more lethal for pigs and boars and other species than nuclear radiation is, right?
Yeah, right.
And you mentioned earlier this kind of fear of contagion, these Godzillas and mutants, and it does make me think, it's our anxieties around a very particular kind of waste and our desire to get away from it and to not have it touch us, to not be, and it's not just like an unfounded fear. Like radiation can cause pretty severe ailments for humans. Yeah, it's a fascinating case.
What probably makes it scarier as well is that radiation is so invisible and it's such an invisible killer. And the thought probably of a large mammal that is already dangerous in itself, or any animal really, potentially carrying that invisible killer just makes people scared of anything that might be radioactive.
Yeah. Yeah, but these areas are also kind of fascinating and interesting because they give us an opportunity to see how nature, like you said, nature or animals can rebound, the different options and opportunities they have. You mentioned Chernobyl, and for folks listening, you might want to go and check out the dogs of Chernobyl. It's really, really interesting. Numerous pets were left behind when people left Chernobyl, and these dogs have kind of created their own canine communities of sorts. And it's we think about wild animals like boars in relation to these disasters, but you've also got pets, you've got numerous animals, and the ways in which they respond to disaster situations by being left behind or by not being thought of, or by being given the space to actually do something differently post-disaster. It's really an interesting, I think, field of study.
I always wonder whether animals can actually feel radioactivity, whether there's anything in them that might notice that they are in danger.
Interesting. I'm sure that some can, again, because animals operate on such different, they have very different communication strategies and sensory strategies to us. So I'm sure that some can probably smell the radiation where we can't, or some can even sense it in ways that we don't even think that senses are available to us. So guaranteed there are animals that can smell or feel it in ways so it's not invisible to them. I'll have to read up some more. Anyway, Herre, thank you for this really fascinating highlight. It's given me a lot to think about. And I look forward to rounding up all of your animal highlights in our next episode.
Me too. See you then.
The Animal Highlight is produced by myself, Claudia Hirtenfelder, co-hosted together with Herre de Bondt. The editing was done by Herre de Bondt, Christiaan Mentz, and myself. The episode artwork by Rebecca Shen, and the bed music by Gordon Clarke. This is The Animal Highlight with me, Claudia Hirtenfelder.